Good afternoon. As Chrissy said, I'm Paul Riedl. Got a quick agenda here for you. So I'm here with Terry Beatty. Terry is the River Run's CISO, which is the Chief Information Security Officer. The reason I have him here is because he knows inside and out all this fun cybersecurity stuff, and he helps me spread the word. The objective is to really simplify cybersecurity so that people take action. Because what happens we see is we talk cybersecurity and I see people going, okay, yeah, and then they go, oh gosh, will he stop talking? I hope so. And then they move on. And they don't do anything about it. So what we want to do is really simplify this and break it down so that people can say, okay, I can take some steps. Because there's a lot of bad actors out there and we want to put them out of business. So I'm going to let Terry talk a little bit about his credentials if you don't mind. And so Terry Beatty, he is, as I said, River Run CISO and a fantastic person and a fantastic resource to talk about. So give a little bit of your history.
So I like to warn people that I'm paid to be paranoid, meaning that I live and eat, drink, and breathe security. And it's our favorite topic. I have been with River Run since 1999. I started in the industry in 1989, so no jokes please. But I basically I started out as a system engineer, doing Novell migrations, and did that for a large number of years. They still let me touch equipment, and I'm still involved in escalations and helping our senior engineering team. But basically I've survived in the industry long enough that I function as a virtual CIO, virtual CISO for our clients, and as the CISO for River Run.
So he keeps us secure, which is the translation of all this great acronyms we're using. So River Run, we're a 30-year-old firm. I'm telling people my dad started the company because I'm way too young to have a company this old. That's what I'm going to stick with now. We've got 72 members. We've got a team model with how we take care of a client. We've got multiple teams, and then the objective is to give the client a feel of a small company, but with the resources of a larger company. We've got secure managed services for over 300 clients. Our mission is helping our people, our clients, and our community achieve meaningful results. The way we do that is by talking with people, understanding what their needs are, helping them achieve those. How does technology help do that? So what is cybersecurity? We've created the definition of that, and it's, again, taking responsibility for your information by keeping the information governed, secured, monitored, and backed up. And there's all these different pieces to that. Well, how do we keep ourselves secure? Those are the questions that we're going to run through as we move forward. One of the things we talk about is managing risk. And if you look at cybersecurity as how do we manage the risk, we've got to look at a standard management for risk. We've got to evaluate, we've got to identify, we've got to assess our risk, we've got to plan how do we mitigate this, how do we take care of it, and then we've got to execute. And then we've got to evaluate, and then we've got to identify. We've got to keep going around in circles as we're doing this. That's the same thing with your cybersecurity. Unfortunately, this isn't a set it and forget it type of situation. This is a situation where we have to make sure that we're constantly looking at the risk that we're dealing with here. So just for a little fun, we put our team together and said, okay, what devices are completely secure from a cyber attack? So this will be audience participation time. Does anybody get an idea? What kind of devices would be completely safe from a cybersecurity attack?
A hammer.
A hammer. Right on. So we took our team of security specialists and we did some searching. And we found a lot of equipment that is actually safe. So we put that out there again because, yep, those things are safe because they don't have any plugs, they don't have any Wi-Fi, they don't have anything to connect to. But now as we're looking at our world, as you think about your world, everything is connected. And so because everything's connected, everything's got some risks, and we might want to make sure that we all understand that. So I'm going to let Terry talk a little bit about the attacks, why they're increasing, and what type of attacks are increasing.
So you may be, if you're reading any of the trade rags or any of your business papers, online sites, and so forth, you're aware that cybersecurity attacks have been exponentially increasing on an annual basis. And most people, when they're thinking of cybersecurity attacks, are thinking of, okay, ransomware, somebody's going to hold my data hostage. But in reality, ransomware is, in a large sense, just the tip of the iceberg. But it's rampant, it's prevalent, and it's expensive. So ransomware, just some examples up here, the paper cut, which attacks printers. It's important for us to recognize that anything that has an IP address has an operating system. And anything that has an operating system functions as a computer in some way. And if it functions as a computer, it can be used as an attack platform. So a lot of the things that we don't think of as being vulnerable, such as phones, printers, the Internet of Things, are involved. Attacks are increasing on those devices. PaperCut is printer management. The other thing to keep in mind is phishing. We still run into a lot of organizations that are wondering what the value is in having any kind of an anti-phishing program in their organization. The reality is if your network administrator has built an impenetrable fortress, then what's going to happen is the next thing the attacker is going to do is try to hit the weakest link, which isn't your defenses, it's going to be your people. And that's why it's so important. The anti-phishing, the phishing attacks are relentless. The payouts are 75 million, 100 million are not unheard of for payouts. That's why it's important for us to be paying attention to that today. Let's talk a little bit about some buzzwords that you may be hearing out in the industry, and you're hearing them often enough that you maybe want to acknowledge they exist, but you're not quite sure what they mean. Zero trust. Zero trust is the idea that firewalls as we know them are actually about to become passé, meaning that within the next few years, it's already happening, firewalls are not going to be as important anymore because firewalls protect the front end of your organization. But the reality is every device in your organization is wide open to the world of things in some way, shape, or form. Zero trust is the concept of trusting nobody and nothing, either within your organization or within the outside world. And if you start with zero trust from the lowest level devices on your network and work your way out through the network, you can start to build a good framework. Whitelists and blacklists. We call them also today allow lists versus block lists. A whitelist is basically you determine what gets allowed through your network and nothing else gets allowed. A blacklist means you allow everything into your network and you block certain items. Whitelists are considered, first of all, they're the most difficult to set up, the most painful to set up, but they're also the most secure. SIEM, security information and event management. This has to do with collecting all of the log data coming from all the different disparate devices on your network, compiling them into one location and having an engine that can put all of that together and show you at a point in time what's going on in your system.
For time's sake, Terry, can you just jump down to hit CMMC real quickly since it's manufacturing
Sure.
intensive, and then we can move on.
How many of you are familiar with what CMMC is? How many of you are manufacturing for the government in some way, shape, or form? Have a government contract or are contemplating, have contemplated in the past the possibility of a government contract? So CMMC is the cybersecurity maturity model. It's based on, everything is an acronym of course. It's based upon a standard called NIST SP 800-171. That's National Institute of Standards and Technology, Special Publication 800-171. That's a document that consists of 14 control areas covering 110 controls. And those are the items that are currently necessary for anyone who has anything close to a defense contract. And you might think, well, I'm not really working for the US government, but if you have a contract with somebody like Lockheed or General Dynamics or Oshkosh Defense or so forth, you might even just be manufacturing what you would consider to be a fairly inconsequential part, but this still impacts you. And the nice thing about the CMMC model, it's something that I talk about the most, is if you hit the NIST standard, you've basically put yourself in the ballpark for every other kind of compliancy framework that's out there. If you tailor your defenses and your network security to meet the NIST controls, then you're also covering ISO controls. You're also covering anything that the banking and financial industries would be asking of you and so forth, with just a few minor tweaks.
Thank you. So before I forget, this presentation is designed for you all. So if you all have questions, go ahead and we can take them as we're going through. It may mean we need to flip through some of the other slides a little bit faster, but again, we want to make sure that we're bringing content and talking about items that are really important to you all. So please go ahead and ask the questions. One of the things about security that we really work to do is to give some type of an analogy to really help people understand. And so we look at how we protect our home. And if you think about protection of your home, it's really changed over the last 30 years. Well, at least in my world it did. I used to be able to drive into the driveway, throw my keys on the floor of the car, and walk into the unlocked house. I didn't have to worry about it. The only thing I had to worry about was finding my keys, and I knew where they were because they were on the floor of the car, so that was perfect. Well, then time went on, and I had to start taking the keys in the house because it was getting a little nutty in the neighborhood, so I had to do that. Well, and then we had to start locking the door, and then we had to get an alarm system, and then we had to, and then we had to, and then we had to. But that was over a 30-year span. In the IT world, it's the same thing, but it's much more compressed. And the times have changed. And so as we look at security, we have to, again, look at security as how much protection do we need on our house, and how much protection do we need in our business? And that's what we want to make sure we're covering and talking about. So we look at security, as we talked a little bit about. It's not a set it and forget it type thing. It's an always ever-moving target. And so the question is, why is it an ever-moving target? What are the causes? The one main cause, bad actors are increasing. It's very easy to set up a new business and I'm going to say, I'm going to be a new bad actor. There's low cost, the barrier to the barrier of entry. It's very, very inexpensive. Plus, as we see, the economic tendencies, things change in the world. And so because of that, again, different parts of the world have different values. More people are jumping in and becoming bad actors. We've got the misaligned values as we're talking about. Some people say, well, your data is my data, and that's the way it is. They forget that, no, I created that data. It took me a while. There's dollars and cents that went into that. I'm going to take your data. The other part of that is new tools, creative attacks. It's scary. There are tools and there are services on the dark web that will help somebody set up their business to attack our businesses. It's no joke. And you've all heard of software as a service. It's where you pay to use some software. There is hacking tools as a service that's out there that bad actors can subscribe to get tools to, again, utilize to hack. So it's just crazy how it's becoming, or it's such a business for organizations. The other thing that happens is the need for speed. We want to move faster. We've got to move faster. We've got to stay more competitive. Well, in order to do that, we start connecting things together. And because when we place an order, we want that order to go to our suppliers and provide us with the materials, and we want it to come into our production so that we can get our equipment to start moving. And so what's happening is because we have that need for speed, we're connecting things together, and that can cause some challenges for us. It also causes challenges for our people because they've got to move faster. We've got to move quick. We've got to move quick. We've got to respond fast. Well, when we move fast, mistakes are made. And so we've got to make sure that we're not making the mistakes, but that's another reason we've got that. The international business we talked about. There's more business going on internationally than in the past. So that's something that we have to pay attention to. Hosted applications. Oh, I'll just move my stuff to the cloud and don't have to worry about it anymore. It's fine. It's safe. No, now you've got a few other hoops that you got to jump through and we'll talk about that as we move forward. So everything, once you move it up to the cloud, doesn't mean that it's secure. You've got to make sure and do your diligence to make sure things are secure. The other big part is that it's an extremely lucrative business. It really is. And as you see the payouts that some of these people are generating, it's ridiculous what they're making. And that, because of that, that just jumps people in. Then the last part is, the reason that it's happening is there's new revolutionary technologies. There's always something new that's coming up. It's fantastic. I'm going to let Terry talk about one of those new technologies.
So new technologies are enticing, and right now there's probably nothing more enticing than the whole concept of ChatGPT. And how many of you are familiar with GPT? It's all over the news, isn't it? So generative pre-trained transformers, and essentially it is a human language model that uses human deduction models. It's basically a rather advanced form of artificial intelligence. There are open source AI engines out there. There are open source chat engines out there right now. Of course, they're being exploited by people, college students writing thesis papers and so forth. But that same kind of technology can be used in other ways in your business to to fool you into thinking you're talking to somebody that you may not in fact be talking to, or to deduce certain things based on information gleaned from you and so forth. And so it's a technology that's brand new. It's enticing because of all the potential that it has for good, but it also has a huge amount of potential for negative impact on businesses.
So Jerry, you got this?
Okay. So many people assume, well, my business will never be hit. Maybe I'm a one-man shop, a one-woman shop. I'm a small business. Maybe I only have 5 or 10 employees or so forth, or we're running an inconsequential business. We're providing an important service, but it's not something that's going to be super attractive to people. The reality is that people are looking for your credit card information. They're looking for your personal medical information. One of the things that transpired last year, when Microsoft comes out and actually blames another country for a cyber attack, that's a fairly big deal. You don't just start throwing names around unless you're absolutely sure that something has happened. And Microsoft produced the data last year that demonstrated that China had basically conducted a nationwide cyber attack, and they're interested in your medical information. Why would China be interested in your medical information? Because if they know what Americans are spending their money on and what kind of healthcare problems that we have, that helps, that's information they can weaponize to determine where to put their investments and so forth. Bank account information, service accounts like Amazon and PayPal are information that they're going to want to know from you. People who are engaged in this business recognize what human behavior is. Okay? And so they recognize that you're using all of these services, and they recognize that if they can get information about one service, that's going to give them clues about how you access your other services. And as all of that information starts to aggregate together, they can build a fairly reliable profile of you and your business. You might, the same question comes to companies. Why my company? The same kind of information, your bank account information, credit information, information about your employees, your clients, and your vendors. That's a nightmare for any organization to think that their clients might be compromised due to something that occurs in their system. Access to your proprietary data through your files and so forth, and also disrupting your business. The reality is that you might think, well, okay, but I really don't have that much valuable to offer. Am I really attracting anybody's attention? And the reality is that you may in fact not even be the primary target. Your business, yes, may be a target, but you might simply be one small building block in a larger trajectory that an attacker is trying to gain. What they will try to do is get enough information from one area that can be used in another area, and they have no problems creating collateral damage, mowing right over the top of one business in order to get at something else or another larger piece of information. They do it for statistical data gathering. They do it for institutional reconnaissance. There have been a number of supply chain attacks conducted nationally. One of them, again, Microsoft published that it was coming from Russia to test the resiliency of our national commerce networks and so forth. Behavioral observation, response readiness, and proof of concept attacks. Believe it or not, you may get attacked simply because somebody's applying for a job. Meaning a hacker is applying for a job or trying to show off their skills, and you are their resume. And so these are the reasons why we recognize that there's no business that's really safe.
So again, the objective is to make sure we're getting your attention, and these are some of the things of why me? Why are people looking at me? So again, audience participation time. We're gonna have a quick quiz. So when this shows up to you on your desk or shows up in your inbox, what do you think? What should you be looking at?
Sender address.
Sender address. Perfect. Okay, what else would we look at?
Signature line.
Signature, yep, excellent. Anything else?
The URL embedded
Bulk,
in the link.
perfect. So here's some of the things we got to look at. Again, we talked about the bulk, we got the signature address. This one too is a hot one. Recover messages. If they make it easy for you to click on something, don't click on it. Get rid of it, delete it. This is also, again, you look at the phone number. You're watching that. This is why we also introduced ChatGPT to this conversation, because ChatGPT is starting to help bad actors hone in and create better emails than this one. So, another email. What do you notice about this one? You all were great on the first one. Don't let me down now. What else?
Or punctuation.
For punctuation.
Your email address, so it's coming from Gmail, not your company.
Yep. Coming from Gmail.
iPhone,
See?
smartphone.
Yep. There's one other big one. That's me. I sent it to me. And I said, hey, I want to surprise some staffs with gifts. So again, it ties in with, we got to really be diligent, really be paying attention. And this was just, it's a fun one because I didn't send this to myself, I'm sure of it. I did double check to make sure. But as you look at those things, that's where we have to really be paying attention so that we don't make mistakes and click on something. Because it's out there all the time. And that's where, again, training ourselves and training each other to slow down a little bit. So we're going to have Terry jump on some of the email threats and some of the things that we need to pay attention to, just like we hit. So we'll go through this quickly because we're already at it.
Yeah, so it's important not to take knee-jerk reactions when you open an email, but take a second look at things. Look for misspelled words, look for poor grammar. Those items don't simply mean that the person that you're interacting with is using poor form or is uneducated or anything like that. These are all designed to get through a filter. They're designed to get through your system's network defenses. Misspelled words, poor grammar, missing punctuation. Look for the sender email address and be aware that what's sitting on the surface that you can see, if there's an underlying link, might be very different than the link that's under that. Requested action and urgency, something trying to get you to react quickly. Links to sites and forums, don't click on them. If you're looking at fuzzy logos or distorted logos or grainy graphics, there's a good chance that those have just simply been lifted off of a website somewhere in order to attempt to fool you. And subject line discrepancies.
One quick thing is the requested action and urgency. All of us like publicity. We like to talk about our successes. We want to talk about when we hire new people. We want to talk about when we've done a fantastic merger and acquisition or come up with a new product. Well, when you do that, you get publicity for yourself, good and bad. And the reason I mention this is because this is very prevalent when you have a new person starting, especially somebody that's going to be an assistant to the C-suite or something like that. Be very, very focused on this, because when the new people come in, that's who the bad actors go after right away. Because they're the ones that want to please the new boss, and they don't want to make a mistake, but they want to make sure they get those gift cards to them as quickly as they can. And so that's the type of stuff we have to make sure we're educating our people on. This requested, if there's action and urgency, tell them what your policy is. Like my policy is, I've told people I will never request money via email or texts. It's always going to be the phone. We're going to always talk that way. And then I know there's new things about copying my voice and all that stuff too. I know that, but we come up with some buzzwords or something. But seriously, we got to make sure we keep the phone going. So keep going, Terry.
So when you receive an email that's got an urgent request from you coming from somebody that's high ranking in your organization, don't feel bad at all about if it's out of the ordinary. Stop and take the time, walk across the hall, contact that individual and say, did you send this? Because they'll try to get you to respond dutifully. That call to service is desperation or urgency. Also, anything that attempts to circumvent normal operational processes. The plans have changed. Can you move to this bank account instead of the one that we were planning to send that disbursement to? Anytime that happens, don't feel bad about stopping everything, picking up the phone, calling the individual, and not moving until you've actually gotten authorization saying, yes, that's what I've said, or no, it isn't. They're going to attempt to get you, they're going to count on the fact that you have a busy day and that you've got 100 things going on, and so they're going to try to get you to be off your balance, off guard, and give a knee-jerk reaction. And they are, in fact, monitoring your actions. If there's something in your organization that they want, they've already studied you. They know your behavior, they know their habits, they may know who the weakest links in the organization are, and so it's important to be cognizant of all those things.
So when we talk about cybersecurity then versus now, going back to the analogy of me throwing my keys on the floor of the car, it was just very simple, I didn't lose my keys a lot. You look at security before, and the big things are we had antivirus, we had a firewall, we had a spam filter. Way to go. All right, we're secure. Then we started saying, well, let's get some end user training. Let's teach our people how to be safe. Well, if they can make it. Well, okay, if they miss it this quarter, then we'll have them do it at the end of next year. We were very loose on those types of things, but we had it. Passwords. Okay, let's have passwords, that's good. Well, let's make them a little more complex. Oh, we can't swap or switch our passwords. That causes a problem for IT, and then everybody complains to their manager. But we have passwords. The DR plan. Yep, we should have a DR plan. If we have a disaster, how do we recover from it? And then the key cards. Yep, that's a different way to get in and get security, and that's wonderful. That's the list of the before. Now it's then. Now we've got a lot of different pieces here. And we're going to talk about a lot of the parts in here, but the main thing is multi-factor authentication is a huge one. Wherever you can activate multi-factor authentication, do it. Wherever you can activate multi-factor authentication, do it. Because it helps decrease the chance of bad actors getting to your stuff. And I'm saying that over and over because that's just it's a quick safety net. Yes, it's a little inconvenient. Yes, you have to have your phone with you. But boy, you know what else is inconvenient? Having to try to get your money back or having to try to get your data back. That takes a lot more time than approving a multi-factor authentication request. Security Operations Center. This is big, and Terry will talk about that as well. Security Operations Center. This is a group of security professionals, and what they do is they watch your system. We put software on client systems. We have a Security Operations Center that's just monitoring the data that's coming from that and monitoring the tools and working with them and responding with actual real human beings if there's a security event. We talk about this because the Security Operations Center used to be something that was exclusive for big companies. Big companies all needed a Security Operations Center. Well, I'm going out on a limb and I'm going to say it right here, right now, everybody needs some type of Security Operations Center. Even River Run. With our 73 people in the organization, we don't have a Security Operations Center in River Run. We've partnered with the Security Operations Center outside because there is so much with security that we need to do that we have to have that service. So that's a big part of it. A lot of the other pieces we're going to cover, but we're going to, like drive encryption, we're going to talk about. You want to make sure that you have the incident response plan, we'll talk about that. And then you also want to make sure you're understanding your regulations and any compliance reporting. Where, based off of the industry you're in or the business you're in, what kind of regulations are there that you have to follow and that you have to pay attention to? That's just the stuff that you need to know as well. When we look at the security, we try to create a visual for us. So as we look at it, we've got the Security Foundations Review. So if you look at the umbrella, that's our security foundation. Underneath, we've got a lot of the pieces we'll be talking about. Endpoint and how we're protecting the machines that we're on. You've got different types of things for the Microsoft 365, security monitoring. Email is a big hole. And we got to make sure that people understand how to use email safely and what can we do to monitor that email. How do we make sure that bad actors aren't getting into our system with the system there. On the right side, we're talking about more of the activities, more of our policies. Again, we talk about multi-factor authentication. So now I'm going to let the smart guy do all the talking and we'll go from there.
So we use a SOC at River Run, and the reason for that, we have 50 plus techs and engineers. And it's not that we are not competent in security, we are. But the reality is attackers know that any network administrator has 100 things that they're responsible for during a day. And only a portion of that is security. Some of that is answering help desk requests about equipment functionality and everything else. They're counting on that. They're counting on the fact that you're distracted for a large part of your day. And so what a SOC does, a Security Operations Center, is all they are doing is monitoring the data coming in from your endpoints, monitoring your endpoint detection and response clients, which is what has replaced, by the way, if you're using traditional antivirus, I'll just touch on the last slide for a moment. Make sure that you're switching over to an EDR. It's absolutely critical that you take that step in your business now. EDRs use AI rather than subscription files to determine what's good and bad on your network. So a SOC takes all of that information, and when they see something bad occurring, they're not concerned about all the thousands of times somebody's trying to break into your network. They're concerned about the one time they're successful at doing it. They're concerned about what happens when there's movement within your network that isn't normal. That throws off a trigger alarm. The next thing they do is they contact Riverrun, and they will keep contacting us. They will keep bugging us until one of us says, okay, we get it, stop. That's important because it means that somebody's paying attention to you from the very moment the alarm goes off and making sure that you get immediate attention. So a SOC is used to monitor all of that data that's coming in, looking for what we call lateral movement within your network, looking for successful logins from suspicious countries, or looking for suspicious sequences of behavior. They have cyber analysts that are able to aggregate all of that data, and they use software to interpret all those log types simultaneously. They detect those attacks, and then they are able to not only alert us, but they also provide some expertise that we don't have maybe in certain areas, so we're able to coordinate with them in order to put these down. The attack analysts that they have on board are trained in the most recent threats and so forth, so they're aware of the things that are just coming out, zero-day threats coming out today. And so they also have endpoint engineers. A large part of the SOC is you've got one team looking at your infrastructure devices, which are your switches, your routers, your firewalls, and so forth. You've got another team that's looking at your workstations and your servers, anything that's running an operating system, because all of that data is important.
So the reason we put this up is that a lot of people say, oh yeah, we have security operations centers offerings inside of our organization. Oh, how big of a company are you? Oh, a four-person firm or five-person firm. Can't be done. The old phrase, I got a guy, when you talk about IT support or IT services, I got a guy, doesn't work. You got to make sure that you have a team and a security operations center. So even if you have an internal team that's taking care of your IT, you want to make sure that they have the security operations center behind them to help protect them. So this isn't just if you're using an outside service, this is even if you have a team inside, you want to have a security operations center involved.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit about XDR workflow, extended detection and response. So events in your environment end up getting picked up by the SOC, and they go to different categories depending upon what's actually going on in your network. If it's network infrastructure, switches and routers and so forth, those are picked up by the SIM. Security information and event management, those monitoring, and if it's your endpoints, your workstations, those are picked up by a different team. And all of that filters to a single pane of glass so that they're able to detect, okay, this is going on here, this is going on here, this is going on here. Those three things together look like this kind of an attack. It's important to have that holistic picture going on. And then they're able to send the alerts. At that point, then we're working with them to immediately, number one, clamp down on what's going on, and then start the remediation.
So the big thing, I don't know if you all can see the number at the bottom, it says 94,072,642 events. That's what this software that's watching systems has said, hey, we got to look at this type of stuff. Then of those, 2,710 of those are alarms that really require somebody paying attention to. And then we take it to 16 alerts were issued. That means somebody's actually got to dive in and figure that out. So this, again, is why it's so important to have the right security operations center, the right team working with you, because there's so many events that come out that may or may not be a bad situation. And we've got to make sure that we can get through it quickly. And again, it's too much stress on your internal team. You've got to have the security operations center piece.
How many of you have an incident response plan for your organization? Perhaps next to your IT governance documents, in fact, maybe even ahead of your IT governance documents, the single biggest document, the most important document you can have nowadays is an incident response plan. What's the difference between an incident response plan and a DR plan? The two terms used to be used almost identically, but what's happened over the last few years is they've actually separated. I like to put it this way. An IR plan is what happens when you wake up and you go in the morning and you find a ransomware note on your server. A DR plan is what happens when you wake up in the morning and you go to the office and there's a crater where your building used to be. Okay. Now, believe it or not, the DR plan might sound like it's more expensive and more important. It is more expensive, but believe it or not, they've actually gone down in stock. The reason for that is because a little thing called a pandemic in 2020 caused the entire world to figure out organically how to work remotely. And so for many organizations, their DR plan kind of just developed by instinct. More importantly though, the incident response plan is a response to ransomware, it's a response to threat attacks, and that's what your business partners are interested in, that's what your clients are interested in. For you, that's what your cyber insurance carrier is interested in. That may be the number one motivation to make sure your incident response plan is in order, is because to be insurable, your cyber insurance carrier is going to require it. Also, if you have any compliancy requirements at all, whether they be HIPAA, FINRA, anything to do with the SEC or the financial industries, the payment card industry, any government industries, any compliancy framework will require you to have an incident response plan. An incident response plan protects you while an incident is going on, because no matter how well organized and how rational you are, there's going to be a large amount of panic going on in your head, and there's going to be a whole large number of irrational people around you who are going to be knocking on your head while all this is going on because they don't know what to do. An incident response plan helps you to stay organized as you work through that, number one. The second thing is it protects you after the fact, because once all is said and done, people are happy to cooperate with you until you get through the crisis, because they're trying to take care of their interests. As soon as it's done, they're going to be knocking on your door trying to recover whatever they think their losses are. It's important at that point in time that you have had the incident response plan in place, because your legal team, your general counsel, is going to be able to use that to demonstrate that you have done everything the industry is asking you to do, and you're being responsible as an organization.
They say that it's between 60 and 70% faster recovery if you do have an incident response plan. And I know that seems like a huge number, but it really is, because, again, when you're in the middle of these situations, the more you have a roadmap, the faster you can react, the faster you can get things taken care of. So as we look now at some of the cybersecurity tips, we're going to go through this a little bit quicker, because I want to make sure that you all can get out at 2. But please, again, if you've got questions, just stop us. We can always get the slides out to you, and if you're interested in the slide deck, please just leave me your information and we can make sure we get that out to you, because the more we can get this out in front of people, the better. Again, objective is bad actors out of business.
So email safety tips, or don't click on links in email. Follow the procedures for your help desk, follow whatever standard procedures are in place. Proper identification and notification from the people who are sending messages to you. Don't touch a suspicious email until it's been cleared. Report it, but don't do anything with it. Document your actions in response. That's important to do for your protection. Delete and clean out deleted email. Don't leave unnecessary things in your system, in your mailbox. And activate email monitoring.
And no using your archive or your deleted messages as your archive forever. Got to clean those things out, as Terry was saying, because we don't want old stuff sitting in the old deleted file. And it's kind of fun, you go in and see the big number, but we got to get those cleared out. You don't want to keep them.
Some texting safety tips. Don't reply to unknown senders. Don't opt out, just leave it, just let it sit, because even an opt-out can be used as a way to get back through to you. Don't click on any links in the text. Delete the text message. Some mobile device safety tips. It's important to restart your phone weekly, at least weekly. That will clear out anything that might be resident in memory, and it also allows your IT administrator to push those badly needed security updates to your phone. Delete texts and apps that are no longer used. Turn on multi-factor authentication. And by the way, whenever and wherever possible, SMS multi-factor is good, but if you have another form of multi-factor available besides SMS, prefer that first. Okay? Disable mobile hotspots when not in use. And along those lines, never use public wireless. Never use public hotspots. Open hotspots, that's the #1 way to get to pick up a critter. Stay current with system updates. Lock your phone when it's not in use. Your IT administrator puts a very short lock sequence on your phone for a good reason. If they don't have one, request them to do so. And make sure that you're using some form of mobile device management, which includes device monitoring. Some road warrior safety tips. I like to use the phrase MFA everywhere. Use MFA for your VPN, use MFA for your Windows login, use MFA for your server login, use MFA for all your websites and all of your bank accounts. Don't use public Wi-Fi. If you're in a place where the only thing available is public Wi-Fi, use your cell phone as a hotspot. That is, if your cell phone is already MDM secured and so forth. Be looking over your shoulder. Be aware of who's around you. Who's sitting in the parking lot or sitting in the drive out in front of your house or wherever you're working from. Who's in your immediate vicinity as you're sitting in the coffee shop and so forth. Because they may be trying to sniff your data wirelessly, or they may actually just be trying to observe human behavior. Limit access to personal sites and info. It's not a good idea to go out to all the social media sites and tell them everything about your past, because all of that information can actually be put together. That's what social media is designed to do, is aggregate all that information, and that can be used to profile you. Turn off auto connect to public Wi-Fi and use a VPN to access company data.
So again, the public Wi-Fi seems so convenient. It's so nice to have, and every hotel you check into, they feature that they have Wi-Fi. Use the hotspot. Use your hotspot. Use your hotspot. And oh yeah, I'm not sure if you all saw, but activate multi-factor authentication too. We're going to keep saying the same thing. In the marketing world, they say you have to say something 7 times before people go, oh, yeah, we got to keep saying this. We got to keep doing this. Don't use the hotspot, or don't use the Wi-Fi.
Some equipment safety tips are very similar. So the same process for your cell phone, for your mobile devices, goes for your laptop, your desktop, and everything else. Turn it off and restart it daily. That clears out any potential attack vectors that are in memory, and it also allows the updates that have been pushed to your device to kick in and give you those latest updates. When you're away from your desk, even if it's for 30 seconds, even if it's for a minute, lock your computer. Stay current with required updates. Keep your computer on when your network administrator is asking you to keep it on so that those updates can get pushed to you. Accept Windows app updates from known sources. Don't accept them from unknown sources. And don't ever feel ashamed about calling your company and asking about that. Don't leave laptops or tablets sitting around visible in vehicles. particularly if you know they're containing high-value information. Be cautious of free downloads. Not everything that's free is really free, right? Not everybody that's offering you a free app is actually your friend. And that's becoming more and more the case. So be cautious of free downloads and secure all of your connected devices. Be aware that all of the Internet Things devices in your home, for example, your robotic vacuum cleaner, can actually be, that wonderful technology can actually be used to map out your home. So it's important to be cognizant of all those things. Social media and hosted services safety. Yep. Use MFA for social media. Share as little as possible on all sites. No personal information in your profile. Use very secure passwords with complexity. Don't answer those innocent little fun, harmless questions. And vet all of your friend requests. And don't click on any unexpected links.
And so when we talk about the harmless questions, you have to remember that the bad actors are not just watching you on one site or another site or anything. They're watching the whole entirety of your life. So when you answer a question about your best friend on one site, and you answer a question about your dog's name on another site, you answer a question about your wife's maiden name on a third site, they can take all that and put it together, and they can start building that profile on you. That's why be very selective on what information you provide, and keep some stuff and say, nope, I'm not going to give you that type of information. I know it sounds goofy, but it really is what they're doing.
Some password safety tips. Don't store passwords in text or notepad documents. Don't do that. Spreadsheets. Don't use the same password for more than one account. Do use a random password generator. Ideally, you want to get to the place where the only password you have to remember is the password to log into Windows. Once you get in the front door, you can use a password keeper and a password generator to get to everything else. If you're using non-rememberable passwords, then no one can profile you because you just used a psychology disruptor. Use passphrases wherever possible. The wonderful thing about passphrases is they're words you can remember. It's a sentence made up of words that you can remember, but statistically it's been demonstrated that they're just as effective as long, complicated, unrememberable passwords. And again, use an encrypted password manager.
How many are aware of what a password manager is? If that makes sense real quick, okay. Why don't we just give a quick explanation of the password manager, how that works?
Sure, so
in a minute or less.
A password manager is a website that you can go to. There are also things that can reside on your desktop. I'll mention one of those toward the end here. A password manager, you log in, there's one password you have to remember. All the rest of your passwords are in there. Ideally, you want to use a password manager that hasn't been hacked before, and you want to use one that's zero trust, meaning that if you lose your front password, they can't help you. That's a good thing because if that organization is ever hacked, it means your information is still secure. Our password managers, expensive. There is a certain amount of cost to them. I recommend you use one for home also. They're relatively low cost. It's a lot lower cost than having to endure a break-in. And by the way, there's a down and dirty one that you can use for home family use, and that is KeyPass. Now, the bad thing about KeyPass is that it's not really shareable. It's old school, meaning only one person can have it open at a time. The good thing about KeyPass is it uses FIPS 140-2 military-grade encryption. If I steal your laptop and try to get that file, I can't break that file. And it's free. So if you need something for your family, that's what you can do. If you're using something at a business level, we use and recommend Keeper, but there are a number of other good ones out there, such as 1Password and so forth.
Thank you. So some of the identity theft tips is, again, we all are worried about that, identity theft. And a lot of it ties in with what we've already talked about. But again, it's just making sure that you're paying attention to your information and looking for any type of inconsistencies with ID information. You start seeing, boy, there's some application out there with a middle initial that's not mine, but it's my name and my social security number. You've got to keep tabs on those types of things. You want to make sure that you're inconsistent, that you're being inconsistent with the narrative, that you're kind of changing up your life a little bit, or your information, so that, again, people can't create that profile with you. When you're out there, just again, look for the red flags with your information on it. If you're starting to see stuff that's out there, that you're on some new mailing list or something like that, start trying to figure out why these things are happening, and just keep tabs on yourself there. So one of the things with ChatGPT, and this is one of the pieces that it's such a great tool, and this is this new technology, it's wonderful, and everybody just starts embracing it. Some of the things you have to be thinking about are, what are the security risks? Number one is privacy. When you're putting information out there, you're asking it to do things, or you're putting information into it, now it's ChatGPT's, and it's used elsewhere. You got to watch the phishing. In other words, the bad actors are out there using ChatGPT to create better phishing technology, better phishing documents. They're using this great tool as well. The malware, the harmful links. Sometimes when you ask ChatGPT to create something for you, it's going to come up with a wonderful document, and it's going to say, here's a link that you can click on. Well, if a bad actor put a link out there, ChatGPT just go, okay, let's just throw it into this document. He asks for information, so you have to be very careful of not clicking on those links. And then the other thing is the misinformation. ChatGPT is not perfect. It will create things that isn't accurate. So you've got to be very careful of that and understand the information there. So again, that's just a little bit of the tidbits with the ChatGPT, and you want to make sure you relay that to the people that are working for you, because a lot of times they say, oh, this just saved me 4 hours of time. But did it have any of these things causing you problems that you're going to see down the road? That's the thing to think about. So one of the things that we want to talk about is quickly at the start of a security event. And I'm not going to ask the question of how many of you have gone through a security event, because a lot of people don't want to tell me those types of things. But as we talk about it, the security event, think again of the same thing with the same issue with the house. There's a lot of confusion. When you go to your house, if you walk up to the house and it's 12:15 at night, and you know you left the front porch light on, you know you locked the door, you know you set the alarm system, you know you fed the dog, but you walk up and your front door is open and the front light's off. Well, was it the kids? Did the kids leave the front door open? Those kids, you walk in the house. Well, now you start noticing, well, things have been moved around a little bit. And then you try to go into a room. Well, I can't get in that room's locked. Geez, we never locked that door. Why is it there? Well, is the car in the garage? Is there a car in the garage? Go and look in the garage. One car's gone, the other's there. What's happening? It's confusing. Oh, and when you're flipping the lights on, you can't get the lights on. There's confusion in that situation. That is the same thing times 1,000 that happens when you're in a situation where you're walking into your business, or somebody walks in and says, I just got this blue screen and everything disappeared. And it said, I don't have access to this file anymore. And then the bad actors say, a lot of times they'll say, oh, hey, if you want your stuff back here, send her money right here. They're very courteous that way. But as we're looking at things, they're stealing our stuff. They're creating a situation where there's a ton of chaos. And this chaos that's created makes it very hard for us to know what to do. That's where the incident response plan comes into play. You've got to have that incident response plan ready to go. You want to know, again, lock down the system. We got to start locking things down. That's what you see people doing. We got to run around, unplug things, unplug this, plug that in, turn this off, make this happen. That's the type of stuff that's going on. That's why you need the incident response plan to know what should you do so you can do it in a calm manner. Contact. Who do you contact when you're in a security issue? You want to contact your incident response team. You want to have a set team. Yep. And you want to have a tested team. You want to make sure that you're contacting, and this one I'll hit, is your insurance and your law firm. The law firm. Why on earth would you call legal when you're dealing with a security event? What happens is that when you have a security event, you actually contact your insurance company. The insurance company says, this is the law firm you're going to work with, and this law firm then has a security firm that comes in to help with the remediation to figure out what went on. The reason they do that is because now you have this client privilege type thing, this legal client privilege. So you've got to have a law firm involved. So now there's one more person on a call with you, and one more bill that you've got to maintain and manage. So again, that's just the quick group. You want to also call the authorities, the police, the FBI. They don't really do a lot for you other than to collect the information and say, oh yeah, we've seen this before. And I'm not playing them down. I'm not saying they're not trying to make things happen, but it's just the reality of the situation. It is so widespread. So again, the other thing that happens during an incident is that you've got, we've got to review what's the extent, where have they gotten, and that's the other part too. Where have they gotten on our system? What data have they gained access to? Have they pulled any of that data off the system, or is it just encrypted? Did they touch it? Did they see it? What's going on? The other thing is, what access? How did they get into our system? What was it through Paul's machine? Was it through Terry's machine? Was it through an open port on the firewall? What method did they get through to us? You want to understand that too, because again, then you figure out how do you lock things up, and you can see the path that they've gone. But that's the other thing too, is that a lot of the bad actors are extremely courteous people, because when they come in, they create events on your system, but they also clean those events off so that you can't see the path that they took to get in there. And so those are the things about tools that we got to make sure we have to keep us set there. You then go into a negotiation mode, and that's where you're talking about, can I give you money to give me my data back? How does this work? Well, they don't do it at between 8 and 5 for us, and they don't set appointments. It's done at 3 in the morning when you're groggy as can be, trying to pull this negotiation off, trying to get your stuff back and figure out how do you get the money. And I don't know of any transaction that haven't been done, but they're being done in Bitcoin now. So then you have a conversion fee of when you take your money, you have to convert it to Bitcoin. Now you got to pay money for that, and then you have to send it over to the bad actors. So the reason we put this again is there's a lot that goes on there. If anybody wants to talk more about what a security event looks like, please let me know. We get to unfortunately participate in more of these than we'd like to talk about. But these things are scary, and so this is why we're putting all the technology in to help you out. So just have Terry hit the...
Sure. So basically, what happens, what do you do when an incident occurs? First of all, make very sure that you call it as a security event or a security incident. Do not call it a breach. Do not call it a hack. Don't use those words with your clients. Don't use those words with your employees. The reason is you don't know what you don't know at the beginning. Oftentimes at the beginning of an attack, we think we know what the cause was, we think we know who it was and how they got in. By the time it's all said and done, it's something very different. And when you use the breach word, it is an implied admission of responsibility. And so it's very important until your cyber insurance carrier or your legal counsel, or in some cases your IT counsel tells you to do so, don't use that word.
Just for safety, Terry, I'm going to move us along.
Sure.
A couple quick things are, when you look at what's an average security event, 768,500 is the average. And what does that mean? It's included in the ransom, system repairs, the security firms, the marketing that you have to do, some type of fine to client losses. That's what you've got to calculate when you're looking at those types of things. When you look at your cybersecurity, a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, oh, I've got a $3 million policy, I'm good. Well, you've got to really pour into that a little bit more. And so you really need to understand what's really covered, because some of the policies that we've seen and I've reviewed have they only cover a ransom of $200. Well, it's kind of hard when you look at the average ransoms are about $550. So you got to make sure that you understand the policies there. So talk to your insurance organization or your insurance broker more about what's really covered and where the coverages fall into play. We talk about the increase of cybersecurity insurance. That goes up. Having these tools in place sometimes gives you a better opportunity to negotiate with the insurance companies to say, I can get a better rate now because I've invested in the tools to prevent this from happening. Some of the government involvement, and we talked about, HIPAA, everybody knows about that. Terry hit the CMMC that we talked about there. It's again, wanting to make sure that you're following all the government agencies, what their requirements are. You got to make sure you're paying attention to that. The quick checklist. And like I said, I'm sorry we're going so quick at the end here, but if you've got want information, please just give me your card and we'll make sure that we get this out to you. You want to make sure you have a security operations center. We want to make sure that we're using the your hosted backup. We haven't really talked about backup. You got to have a backup solution system that's outside of your current system. That's a big part to that. We talked about multi-factor authentication. We also want, again, number 11, multi-factor authentication. We mentioned it again. We want to make sure that that's just the quickest, easiest thing for you all to go there. The last, number 17, that's a big one. When in doubt, call, ask, delete. You got to do that. When in doubt, call, ask, delete. Talk to each other. Don't just, okay, we're going to react that way. When you're using the chat GPT, these are some of the things to mitigate risk as well. We talked about some of those things. Be cautious. about sharing sensitive information, especially in there, because it takes it, gobbles it up, and then spits it out when somebody else asks for information. Some of the themes that we hit through here are cyber safety starts with you. You've got to take the lead. You've got to push this through. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. We want to make sure that you slow down, read, slow down, ask questions about your security. Don't click if you're not sure what it is. Test an incident response plan as needed, and then call if it's unusual. Pick up the phone and call if something's unusual. Pick up the phone and call if something's unusual. So our ask, connect with us on LinkedIn. We've got things that come out, just again, reminding people about security. Contact us with questions, and then share. Please share what you've learned. Just talk to everybody. Talk to your company. Be obnoxious. Ask a lot of questions. It's great. Ask questions, because the more questions we ask, the better. So, sorry we took you a couple minutes over, but thank you.
I have a question, Paul.
Oh.
Will you make your slides available? If you'll give them to us, we'll put them on the website with your presentation? You can do it?
Yeah, we were gonna. I told everybody if they'd give us their stuff,
Great.
we'll send it to them. So we'll make sure we get it out to you, though. So thank you. Any quick questions? If anybody wants to hang out, we can go out there, because I know we're supposed to get you out there too. So I'm breaking the rules a little. But any other question or any questions? All right. Well, again, if you've got questions, Terry and I will be around. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.